Old photographs hold a kind of magic that no modern snapshot can quite capture. They are frozen whispers of history, each frame a doorway into moments that once shaped lives, societies, and even the world itself. When you look at them closely, you can almost feel the atmosphere. Sometimes it's warmth and tenderness, other times it's chilling, even heartbreaking. They remind us that behind every smile, every gesture, and every shadow, there was a real story unfolding, often stranger and more powerful than fiction. In this video, we are not just glancing at pictures, we are stepping into fragments of time. A wedding that would later turn sinister, a desperate cry during an economic collapse, a fleeting instant just seconds after an unimaginable catastrophe. Some images may shock you, some may touch your heart, and others may simply leave you wondering about the twists of fate hidden in ordinary faces. So stay with me until the very end, because each photograph in this collection reveals not only the unexpected, but also the timeless emotions that bind us to the past. Together, let's open this album of history and uncover the secrets it still keeps. A painful beauty treatment in the 1,930 seconds. Imagine sitting in a clinic almost a century ago, when cosmetic science was still in its infancy. A woman prepares for a procedure to remove freckles, but instead of lasers or gentle creams, her skin is treated with freezing methods that left many in agony. In those days, beauty came with a price not measured in money, but in pain and risk. This photo reminds us how far humanity has come in its pursuit of appearance, and also how much courage it once took simply to follow the beauty standards of the time. Charles Manson's wedding, 1955. Here we see a young man, clean-shaven, smiling, and full of promise, standing at the altar. It looks like a moment of love and hope. But history would later twist this image into something chilling. That same man, Charles Manson, would become one of the most infamous cult leaders of the 20th century, orchestrating horrific crimes. The contrast is haunting. A groom celebrating love, yet destined to become a symbol of fear and darkness. This single photograph captures the unsettling truth that the past can hide terrifying futures. 2 seconds after the Nagasaki explosion, 1945, captured in an instant, this rare photograph shows the unimaginable. The aftermath just 2 seconds after the atomic bomb detonated over Nagasaki. It was the 9th of August, 1945, a day that forever altered the course of world history. What you see here is not just smoke or light. It is the frozen beginning of destruction on a scale the world had never witnessed. The image forces us to confront the human cost of war and how, in a matter of seconds, entire cities and countless lives can vanish. The first surgical use of ether, 1,850 seconds. Medicine in the 19th century was often brutal, but this photo marks a turning point. For the first time, doctors began using ether as an anesthetic during surgery. Before that, operations meant unbearable pain, with patients often restrained by several people just to endure the procedure. This picture is not only a historical record of science, it is a symbol of compassion, of humanity's determination to reduce suffering even in the darkest moments. The Jack Rabbit Club, Sacramento, 1,890 seconds. In this unusual photograph, a group of artillery enthusiasts proudly gather under the banner of the Jack Rabbit Club. They were not soldiers in battle, but civilians fascinated by the tools of war, combining their love of hunting and fishing with military-style gatherings. The photo is almost surreal, men smiling with weapons in hand, blending leisure with the echoes of conflict. It reminds us how, even in peacetime, people found ways to flirt with the thrill of danger. An attack on a grandmother, London, 1954. At first glance, the photo looks like an ordinary street scene until you notice the chaos unfolding. An elderly woman, frail but determined, is being attacked. The image is both disturbing and powerful, freezing a moment when vulnerability meets violence. It also reflects the struggles of post-war London, where crime and poverty often collided with the lives of ordinary citizens just trying to survive. Christmas packages for the lost, New York, 1944. Here, we see neatly wrapped Christmas packages piled high, their destinations marked for soldiers, but these gifts will never reach their recipients. The labels read, "Return to sender." The men they were meant for had been killed in action or gone missing during the war. The sight is heartbreaking. Boxes filled with love and hope, now turned into silent memorials of loss. This photo speaks louder than words about the human cost of war, not just on the battlefield, but in the homes left waiting. Cultural shock in colonial America. Early American settlers left behind journals filled with bewilderment about Native American women. They described them as barbaric and ugly, simply because the women refused to keep hair on their bodies, except on their heads. Little did the settlers know, these women were simply centuries ahead of modern fashion and beauty ideals. This photograph, reflecting those cultural clashes, reminds us how prejudice often blinds people to the richness and wisdom of other traditions. The birth of Tetris, USSR, 1984. This seemingly simple image shows Alexei Pajitnov, the man who would quietly create a cultural phenomenon. In 1984, inside the walls of the Soviet Union, Pajitnov designed a game of falling blocks Tetris. No one could have predicted that this little puzzle would go on to conquer the world, captivating millions and shaping the childhoods of generations. It is a powerful reminder that sometimes the greatest revolutions don't come from politics or war, but from creativity and play. A desperate message during the Great Depression, 1930 seconds, on a crumpled poster, a man poured out his anguish in just a few words. He had lost everything. Like millions of others during the Great Depression, he stood on the street with no job, no food, and no hope, clinging only to the chance that someone might notice his plea. This photograph doesn't just show one man, it reflects the despair of an entire generation, a silent cry from the forgotten corners of history. Anti-British propaganda in Japan. 1940 during World War II, Japan used powerful posters to stir emotions against colonial powers, particularly the British Empire. The bold lines and dramatic colors of the artwork were designed not merely to inform, but to ignite anger and pride. This image shows how propaganda became as potent as any weapon, shaping minds and fueling conflict far beyond the battlefield. German prisoners of war cleaning a football field, USSR, 1945. It is a strange and almost tender scene. German prisoners of war tidying up a stadium during a break in a football match. War was still fresh, wounds still raw, yet here, in this photo, enemies were reduced to ordinary men, sweeping grass and moving debris. It is a quiet reminder that even after the fiercest battles, life insists on returning to normal, and humanity can sometimes be found in the simplest of chores. Celebration after nuclear tests, USA et Tusinde og 1946. In stark contrast, another photograph captures American admirals smiling beside a large cake, decorated to mark the success of nuclear tests at Bikini Atoll. Behind their grins, the world was entering a dangerous new era, the atomic age. The festive atmosphere feels almost eerie when we realize that the success they celebrated was a weapon capable of erasing cities. It is a chilling reminder of how progress can be both triumphant and terrifying. A soldier's defensive stance, Mexican Civil War, 1913. Frozen mid-action, a soldier throws himself into a defensive move. His eyes, intense and desperate, reveal the chaos of the Civil War that tore Mexico apart in the early 20th century. The photo captures not just a soldier, but a nation struggling for identity, caught between revolution and survival. A nun with a rifle, USA, 1963. At first glance, the sight seems almost absurd, a nun holding a rifle, her habit flowing in the wind. Yet in Bergen County, New Jersey, this was an annual tradition. Once a year, the sisters joined the scouts to learn outdoor survival and even practice marksmanship. The image is striking. Faith and firearms, serenity and strength, all embodied in one unexpected moment. It reminds us that people are always more complex than the stereotypes we place upon them. The Collier brothers tragedy, New York, 1947. Few photos capture human tragedy as hauntingly as this one. Police were called to a Manhattan apartment after neighbors complained of a terrible odor. When they arrived, they discovered the entrance blocked by an unimaginable wall of junk. Inside lived the Collier brothers Homer, blind and paralyzed, and Langley, who obsessively hoarded objects. After hours of clearing, officers found Homer dead of starvation, and Langley crushed under the very mountain of debris he had collected. In total, more than 100 tons of clutter were removed, including 14 pianos, 2 organs, and even a car chassis. The photo stands as a grim symbol of isolation, obsession, and the dangers of extreme hoarding. A spaghetti vendor in Naples, Italy, 1908. Here, a man serves pasta directly into eager hands on a bustling street corner. For centuries, macaroni wasn't a fine dining dish but a humble street food in Naples. Eaten without forks, without ceremony, it was simple, communal, and delicious. This image radiates warmth, showing how food has always been more than nourishment. It is culture, tradition, and joy. The tallest man in Iceland, 1950, standing at an astonishing 2.34 meters, 7 feet 8 inches, Johan Kristin Pétursson towers over everyone around him. This photograph, taken during one of his circus performances, feels both inspiring and poignant. He was celebrated across the world as a marvel of nature, yet behind the fame, he faced constant challenges of health and everyday life. The image captures the duality of extraordinary people admired for their uniqueness, but often burdened by it. A perfect trio: airplane, Mercedes, and pin-up style. 1,950 seconds. In one glamorous frame, three icons of post-war culture shine together: a sleek vintage airplane, a polished Mercedes-Benz ponton, and a radiant model in classic pin-up fashion. Corset, stockings, and heels, her style symbolized freedom, femininity, and allure, while the machines beside her represented progress and engineering mastery. Together, they create a snapshot of optimism. When the world longed for beauty and innovation after years of conflict, job hunting during the Great Depression, 1930, a weary man holds a sign, searching desperately for work during one of the bleakest chapters in American history. The Great Depression left millions without jobs, homes, or food, forcing many to stand on street corners with handwritten pleas. This image captures not only economic despair, but also the resilience of those who refused to give up, even when the odds seemed impossible. It is a silent testimony to human endurance in the face of crushing hardship. Moby the Whale's Dental Checkup, USA, 1964. At Marineland Park, caretakers lean over to check the massive jaws of Moby, a whale whose size is both majestic and intimidating. The photo is almost whimsical, a reminder that even the largest creatures need care, and even the bravest trainers must show tenderness. It's a fascinating glimpse into a time when marine parks were still experimenting with how to care for these giants of the sea. Morning hygiene of geishas, Japan, 1898. This delicate photograph shows young geishas preparing themselves before meeting clients. The ritual was not only about beauty, but also about discipline and art. Every brushstroke of makeup, every layer of clothing, symbolized centuries of tradition. The intimacy of the moment reminds us that behind the mystique of geishas were women living lives of both beauty and burden. Breakfast with Betty the Sheep, England, 1949. Mrs. Marley and her daughter Pat sit cheerfully at a breakfast table, their unusual guest being Betty, the family's beloved sheep. The photo radiates charm and warmth, showing that love for animals has always transcended generations. It is an image of post-war England, where families found comfort and joy in the simplest, most unexpected companions. Mi saido in potatoes, 1935. At the Harvest Festival in Idaho, a smiling young woman poses proudly, her dress and crown made entirely of potatoes. It may look amusing, but it was a serious competition, celebrating the agricultural pride of the state. This quirky pageant reminds us how communities found joy, unity, and even glamour in everyday life, turning humble crops into symbols of identity. Married women's smiles in Japan, 13th–18th century. For nearly 5 centuries, a simple smile revealed a woman's marital status in Japan. Newly married women painted their teeth black, a practice called ohaguro. To outsiders, it might look unsettling, even grotesque, but at the time, it was seen as a mark of loyalty, maturity, and beauty. This tradition shows how cultural ideals of attractiveness shift dramatically across time and place. What once symbolized honor might seem strange to modern eyes. Public toilet in Paris, 1875. A black and white photo shows a simple public toilet standing on the streets of Paris. It looks crude by today's standards, yet for the people of the 19th century, it was a sign of progress and modernization. The image captures how something as ordinary as sanitation shaped urban life, improving health and dignity in a rapidly growing city. The rise of three-wheeled cars, Germany, 1954. After the devastation of World War II, Germany's industries had to reinvent themselves. The Messerschmitt Company, once known for producing fighter planes, shifted to creating tiny three-wheeled cars. This photograph of the quirky vehicle symbolizes not only innovation, but also resilience, a nation turning from war to peace, from destruction to everyday utility. It is a striking reminder of how necessity drives transformation. The Devil's Auction Performer, USA, 1867. This unusual stage photograph shows a performer from the fantasy theatrical show The Devil's Auction, a popular 19th century production. Dressed in elaborate costume, the actor embodies the fascination with mysticism and spectacle that thrilled audiences of the era. The picture feels like a window into the birth of modern entertainment, when imagination ruled the stage and drama blurred with the supernatural. A giant sea devil, August 26, 1933. Fishermen proudly display what they called a giant sea devil, an enormous manta ray caught off the coast. Its size dwarfs the men standing beside it, making the photo look almost unreal. In that moment, the ocean's mystery seemed both terrifying and awe-inspiring, proof of the vast and untamed power of nature. King George hunting tigers, India, Etusin, Onihundre, or Elevi. In this photo, King George V stands proudly over tigers killed during his coronation tour in India. At the time, the act was considered a symbol of royal valor and power, but today it feels unsettling, even cruel. The image reveals the stark contrast between past ideals of dominance and our modern awareness of conservation and compassion for wildlife. It reminds us how society's values shift, often drastically, across generations. Railroad bicycles, Michigan, 1910. Here, inventors crafted bicycles designed specifically to ride along railway tracks. The photo shows men balancing on the rails, using their ingenuity to turn an everyday vehicle into a practical transport solution. It is a snapshot of human creativity, at its best, simple, clever, and ahead of its time. Though the idea never became mainstream, it still fascinates us today as an example of unconventional innovation. Distorting mirrors at Rockaway's Amusement Park, USA, 1951. Children and adults laugh as their reflections twist into comical shapes inside funhouse mirrors. The photo radiates joy, capturing the carefree spirit of post-war America. It shows how, after years of fear and hardship, people longed for amusement, for moments where they could forget reality and simply laugh at themselves. This light-hearted image is a reminder that sometimes the simplest pleasures carry the greatest healing power. German prisoners of war at a football match, USSR, 1945 again. Interestingly, this photograph appears once more in historical archives, as if the world needed to remember it twice. German prisoners, once feared enemies, now reduced to ordinary men cleaning a football field. Its repetition emphasizes a powerful truth. Time humbles even the mightiest. Every empire, every army, eventually gives way to ordinary routines, like sweeping grass under a stadium Sunday. As we close this journey through time, one thing becomes clear: photographs are not just images on faded paper. They are fragments of memory, frozen testimonies of human triumph, suffering, joy, and loss. Each picture we've seen is more than history. It is a mirror, reflecting truths about courage, cruelty, resilience, and love. From a desperate man's plea during the Depression, to the haunting silence of packages never delivered, to the laughter of children at an amusement park, these moments remind us that history is not distant. It breathes through us, shaping who we are and what we value today. If these photographs moved you, whether they shocked you, warmed your heart, or stirred curiosity, then their mission is complete. And if you wish to keep uncovering more hidden stories like these, I invite you to stay with us. Like this video, share it with those who value history's mysteries, and subscribe so you won't miss the next chapter in this unfolding album of the past. Because history is never just behind us, it lives in every frame, waiting for us to look closer.